how important or unimportant are public displays of wealth? So I actually had a great
Of
conversation
wealth.
with you, Michael. A public display of wealth. How
Mhm.
important or unimportant or public displays of wealth? So I had a great conversation with you about this kind of thing in Las Vegas recently, just 2 weeks ago, that you were telling me about. So could you tell us about your view on that?
So I have a couple of friends who like use wealth specifically to attract women.
Mhm.
I'm specifically talking about some of these guys are trust fund babies. They're talking about at least 100 million net worth. And there's usually a Rolls Royce, private jet, a yacht, things like that involved. And what you're going to find is there's a certain segment of the female population that gives them no resistance, is totally fine with them sleep, like having her as a primary and then fucking other women, totally down to look the other way. But that kind of is the end of where they can go with it. And what I mean by that is, so a lot of times these guys will say, hey, Michael, we want to throw a party. Could you make sure just like don't let any hookers show up? They're looking to me to try to bring girls that are not only interested in their wealth. Now, in general, Evolution of Desire talks about this. Women are about 100% more concerned with a man's ability to procure resources than the other way around, than men are concerned with women. In fact, for most men who make a good amount of money, we're not concerned at all about how many, what kind of resources a woman can procure. So what I found is rich guys will have a period where they'll use money in order to get women. It will work very well with a certain subset of women who are very transactional. That includes prostitutes, but not only prostitutes. We're talking about like mild sugar baby shit, just gifts or whatever. Corey Yee was just on my podcast 2 weeks ago, and she talks about she makes a ton of money, but she wants a man who will spoil her additionally, but she's not going to live with him and he doesn't pay her rent, that kind of thing. And I also, I talked to a girl the other day, and she's huge model, and she was mentioning something to the effect of like, I really like this guy, he's really good looking, but I needed at least $10,000 a month in order to stay with him. To me, the idea of $10,000 a month doesn't seem expensive, because I would never give a fucking woman $10,000 a month to stay with me. And so because of that issue, what I'll say is the money, if a displays of wealth can help, but it will help with a certain type of woman. There's a certain level of what's the word I'm looking for? You don't look like you sleep on a fucking inflatable mattress at your friend's house. That's too little wealth. But also having the Bentley is maybe too much. Like we're talking maybe, I think, I don't know where the point would be where you start getting limited what's it called, lower return. Bilzerian talked about it on my show. It's like, I know hundreds of guys who are super wealthy and can't get laid. There's a point at which it doesn't give you much more of a return. If you were going to ask me, does a V-shaped torso counter wealth? I will tell you in a lot of cases it will, unless you like come off as like homeless. I think a lot of times that's probably more important to get women who are not only interested in wealth. If you just want women who are totally transactional, wealth is a cure. If you want to have, I know some guys that'll go to Colombia. The standard of living is so much less there. They'll do what's, sexual arbitrage, where they'll go to a country with a lot of beautiful women and no middle class, and they'll go in there and just run through hundreds of women, have sex with them, and their money got them there. They didn't even need signs of wealth. They're like deliberately paying women, calling it a harem, and then teaching a course on it. Like it's one of those situations. So to be fair, money will definitely put your penis in a vagina, but it might not be the vagina that you want for a long period of time.
Very nicely said. And you yourself, how do you you run a very good business, and I don't think you're a very flashy person. So why is that exactly? You
Yeah, I have
could
an
have
Apple
gone that
Watch.
way.
Yeah, yeah. I have a 10-year-old Lexus that I drive with like 120,000 miles on it. I love like I don't really care. Like the most expensive thing I think I own is my MacBook in my apartment. I don't spend money on shit. Part of the reason for me is that I need to handicap myself because I handicap my students. Some of my students don't have a lot of wealth, so I can't teach a course. I was joking with Grant Miguel. We should do a course, how to pick up women using only $100 million. Right? No, what I do instead is I'm gonna show them how to do it using no money. This is like the first thing people say when they see my course is, oh, obviously you pay these girls to hang out with you. And no, that is the first thing we talk about in the course. Absolutely no money. So if I can teach my clients to do it with no money, then I have to do it with no money. So it would actually hurt me if I bought a Lamborghini. I think it would hurt my business.
Exactly. Very interesting insight. What about the rest of you guys? Public displays, just to repeat question. How important or unimportant are public displays of wealth?
Oh, by
Or
the way, if you're running a business, they're very helpful. They're very helpful. We're talking about that's completely different because they can show signs of competency and success. That's good. As far as getting women, there's a certain type of woman who's going to be 10 out of 10 interested, and a certain type of woman that's like going to be, he's hot, but he's rich, but he's fucking fat and ugly, and I'm not going to have sex with him.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I find it pretty helpful when I show up to dates on my like private jet or take them on my yacht, you know. So I think it can be helpful. But yeah, I agree. Like there's two different types of wealth being attractive, which is one, as you mentioned, is just the resource. Like a guy that won the lottery and a girl's like, oh, I want to get on a date with that guy. Like, set me up. Yep, he's got money. Or the girl that's like, okay, this is a man that's built himself from the ground up. He must be a leader. He must be super assertive. He must be intelligent. He's got all these characteristics. It's kind of like pre-selection, but instead of like having women around you, you got like a business around you. Yeah. And so you've got all these like super positive traits. And you actually, you can pick up on women that can identify the difference, and you'll hear what they like about you. And if the girl's just like, yeah, I love that you've got your fucking yacht, as opposed to, I love that you've like built yourself up like this. I love all the characteristics about you. So that's why it can be tough as a guy with money to be able to see the difference in women that he's dating. And I think it fucks with a lot of guys that have money. It's like, is this girl with me just because she wants access to this, or because she actually likes me as a person? So for those guys, they tend to withhold showing any signs of wealth, which in my mind, again, it's kind of this catch-22 where it holds them back from actually getting more attractive women, because it is an attractive trait. So it can be tough. But yeah, you just got to get good at filtering out the fucking sugar babies, you know?
Yeah, I think it's okay to display it if that's what you want to do, like as a guy. If you're into cars, if you're into watches, you can always display it, but you can't lead with it. If you start leading with it, that's just a downward spiral for yourself. So yeah, if that's what you like, you know, if you're into fashion, whatever kinds of displays you want to do, sure, go for it. But just never lead with it, because you're going to attract the wrong type of women. And by not leading with it as well, you're going to be able to filter those girls out. So do it because you want to do it, because you like doing those things, but never lead with it. And the second, you know, you have to check her because she thinks you're leading with it, just check her and then move on to the next one. Because you don't even want, most guys can't. Yeah, it's impossible for every guy to be top 5%, top 1% of the population. So you do whatever you want and then go from there.
You also can't get out of it. So once you lead with money, you always, it's like taking anabolic steroids. Once you have a super physiological physique, you can never maintain that without taking anabolic steroids, because your body's ability to produce testosterone is reduced. It's the same situation here. If you see a guy who gets addicted to hiring prostitutes, there's some of the hardest clients to get off of, because as soon as they get any kind of rejection, or the world doesn't go the way they want, they know they can always get extreme sexual validation by using money. And if they're super wealthy, money doesn't mean that much to them. Money doesn't mean as much as the rejection does. So that's another thing why I really, really advise men to not go down this path, because once you do, it's almost like, again, when you take a heroin, your body does not produce opiates at the same level, and therefore your body's ability to fight off pain is lessened. It's the same situation here. If you're consistently getting sexual validation from women that you paid, when you receive rejection, you're going to immediately go back to that.
Yeah, it's basically path of least resistance, as Michael said. And I totally agree with what Michael said, and the other guys as well. I think, yeah, me and Marcus have a video on the Passport Bros, taking the Passport Bro card and moving to a third world country, you know, and you know my opinion. So, yeah.
And majority of the time, what makes them attractive is how they got that value, how they got that wealth, which is the underlying features of being ambitious, being driven, being goal-oriented. That's what's actually attracted to the girl. And if you could display those features versus leading with, you know, monetary value, I think that's what really counts.
So like giving a speech on a stage with other successful men is a way to show he probably does have money, but he's showing success instead of the money. Right? Having a bunch of employees or testimonials to your business, or having, like, for instance, if I got an interview, if Grant Cardone came on my podcast, that would be there's a lot of women who follow him. A lot of women would be like, wow, Michael must be doing really well with this podcast. It's almost like a sign of social proof that you can do without deliberately saying, we made $3 million this month. Here's the money in my bank account, which is a little bit more overt. You can covertly show signs of success without showing signs of money.
Oh yeah, absolutely.